Welcome to the first of St.Ation's interviews with this year's candidates for Association President. Lottie Doherty is up first. Thanks for joining me, Lottie.
Hi, no, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So we're going to kick off right away with your manifesto and, more importantly, about accommodation, a massive buzzword, as we all know, when it comes to election time. Dan Marshall, a candidate that you campaigned for really heavily. He campaigned for more affordable housing in St Andrews. His predecessor, Jamie Rodney, likewise. And in fact, I've looked at their manifestos. Certainly, at least all of the four last presidents, including Dan, have campaigned for private affordable housing and to solve the crisis. As history dictates, solving that isn't really in the capabilities of Association President. So what makes you think you're going to succeed where all of your predecessors or would-be predecessors have failed?
Yeah, so obviously accommodation in St Andrews isn't something that you can just fix overnight really easily. There's all sorts of different compounding factors. I know that the last Association President did a lot of work on Albany Park and managed to get the university to agree to make some more affordable rooms there than they'd originally planned. So it's progress. I don't think that any of my predecessors failed to achieve their manifesto aim of trying to make St Andrews more affordable, but
did they succeed though?
Well, I think it's very tough just because the issue is so complicated. Obviously there's issues with HMOs and the council as well. And just the university, obviously it takes time to build more accommodation and consult students about what they want and make it more affordable. But we have had the accommodation survey, and hopefully if we can get the results of that out, which I promised in my manifesto, I want to see that done as quickly as possible, because it's obviously been put on the back burner with COVID kind of taking over all of our lives this year. But the university is planning to build some more accommodation. And once we get the results of that survey and they show that students want more affordable accommodation, that tells the university what they need to be doing. So if that happens while I'm president, I will be telling the university to make sure that this accommodation is 100% affordable rooms.
Fantastic. But you're talking about this being a long process. So obviously your year tenure will be part of that process. What stage are we at now at that process, and what are you hoping to have achieved by the end of your tenure?
So hopefully, as COVID becomes, obviously it's still going to be an issue, but a little bit less of an issue next year, there will be some more room to make progress on the big issues like accommodation. So I want to be talking to the council and making sure that the HMO caps are lifted and we're able to get more HMOs, because that makes St Andrews easier to have bigger flats with people living in, and it stops landlords shutting off bedrooms so they don't have to worry about getting an HMO license. And making sure that I lost train of thought there, sorry. I think in terms of the process, there is progress being made. Like I said, there's going to be more affordable rooms built at Albany than there originally were. And with the university planning to build a few more big halls within the next few years, we're quite early in that stage of planning, so we can make sure that those are going to be affordable. And that's something that they'll be planning while I'm president if I get elected. And I will obviously make sure I've got a seat at that table and are telling them to make it more affordable.
It doesn't sound like you're taking much of an active role in it. That's more like the end of a process that you weren't really involved in before.
Well, I would disagree with that, because I've been involved with the campaign for affordable housing. But
as Association President, though, particularly pertinent to being Association President, how are you going to use your role to affect those changes? Because all of what you've just said is fine, but that's nothing to do with you as president.
Okay, but you have to, being president and being involved in something like this that is such a long ongoing issue, that naturally I am going to be continuing things that have been done previously, but I'll make sure that the accommodation survey is out and published and that we're acting on those results, and hopefully more surveys like that can be done as well. So we're keeping on top of what students want, because I want to make sure that the interests of everyone are taken on board when making decisions about these things. So I will have an active role in listening to people and making sure that what students want and need is being taken into account.
Okay, well, we'll leave accommodation then. We'll move on to the affiliation with the National Union of Students, something that you are quite the advocate for. And you've said in your manifesto, not being part of the NUS means we are missing out on opportunities to work and campaign with many other universities on issues which affect students everywhere. What are these issues and why are we not already affiliated with the NUS if affiliation is so important?
So I know that there's been issues with St Andrews being affiliated to NUS in the past and de-affiliating and just never re-affiliating since. It is quite a process to become affiliated. You have to have a ballot with all the students and obviously have a majority vote in favour. You also have to talk to NUS, and there's some fees you have to pay as well, which is obviously a downside to joining. It does cost money, and I'm not 100% for joining NUS or 100% against it. I think there are benefits, like the campaign they're running this year, which links to some of my other manifesto points as well about decolonizing the curriculum. It's one of their key campaigns this year. And being involved in big national campaigns like that, you're able to hear other people's ideas as well and make sure that the way you're campaigning is most effective. And I just think that being part of a big team like that and hearing all these views from people all across the country is a good way to go about making change.
So if you're not particularly for it or against it, then what's your stance in terms of re-affiliation?
So, I mean, personally, I would like to affiliate, but I do understand that there are...
So you're for affiliation then?
Yes, but I'm open to hearing all the arguments and making sure that I'm not just trying to push my view upon everyone. I want to make sure that we're having a proper discussion and debate about this, because there's no point in me just being I want to join NUS, and then everyone turning around and being actually, we don't think that's good. Here's all the reasons why. I'm open to change and hearing about different views.
Okay, but you're certainly in favour, but you're happy to leave it up to the students to decide. Got you. Right, still on that same topic, according to Dan Marshall's manifesto from last year, again, as we've said, you endorsed that manifesto as part of his campaign team. He stated, in recent years, the Students' Association has run a campaign in collaboration with other students' unions and NUS Scotland to change the way that students are treated under universal credit. I've been able to raise that at a national level with politicians and hope to continue that collaboration going forward. So, Lottie, if the Students' Association is already able to run a campaign in collaboration with other students' unions and with the NUS without being part of the NUS, then how do you justify the need to re-affiliate with it?
So, I've also been involved with that campaign against universal credit, and it's a brilliant campaign. But it's harder to be involved with NUS if you're not a part of it. So although we have collaborated with other student unions nationally without being part of NUS, it's a lot easier to get a seat at that table because you're at meetings and able to participate in the conference and things. So you're able to be involved with it on a deeper level and have a better say about where to collaborate and what we need to be doing together.
Okay, and you've mentioned one of the disadvantages of joining the NUS being that you have a fee to pay. You've also mentioned on your campaign Facebook page story that there are numerous advantages and disadvantages. As we've said, you're more in favour, but you also see both sides of the argument. So just quickly, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages, ones you've not already mentioned, of affiliating with the NUS?
So, I mean, I think that the two biggest ones are ones that I've already mentioned. It's the bit of a process having to join and the fee to pay, and it can be quite expensive, and a lot of people just don't really understand what it is. Obviously are sort of disadvantages, but advantage wise, you got access to more resources, you get access to a load more student discounts as well, which is also beneficial for people. Because you get your little NUS card, which is accepted in so many different places that you get a good student discount. But that's obviously more to do with individual benefits rather than joining the organization as a whole. Yeah, I think the two big ones are ones I already mentioned.
Okay, well, let's talk about COVID-19 now. You've spoken in your manifesto about the lack of clarity and transparency when it comes to university communications throughout the pandemic. Now, for much of the pandemic, Dan Marshall, again, his name's cropping up, but he has been president during most of that time. So what are you expecting to achieve that he hasn't achieved in that respect?
Yeah, so I think the student association communications themselves have been really good. I think it's more to do with the university emails because they can be really long and quite hard to find the information you're looking for. And it's been quite last minute for some of the decisions that seem to have been made and then to be passed on to students as well. Like in the summer, when we were suddenly told not to come back to St. Andrews after being told for months that we could. That was really like quick and out of the blue and very confusing for a lot of people. And obviously these sort of decisions are made based on government regulations and those have been changing all the time. But I think the university needs to make sure that when it's sending out important information like that, it's clear, it's done as quickly as they possibly can, and that you're not rambling on trying to scroll through an email to find one sentence of information that you need.
Okay, and also sticking with COVID-19 very briefly, you've also mentioned that you want to investigate where the money for student fines for breaches of the guidelines is going. It strikes me that you're more concerned about where the money's going rather than deterring students from breaching the guidelines in the first place.
No, I'm not. I definitely don't want people to be breaching the guidelines. And I actually just saw today, I don't know if it was just published or if I missed it while making the manifesto, but that the money from the fines is going 50% towards like the discretionary fund and 50% towards the community fund, which is brilliant. It's great to see that that's happening. But no, I definitely don't think that people should be breaking the rules. They're laws for a reason. They're meant to protect all of us. I just wanted to make sure that the money is being put to a good use.
And a final point on your manifesto about inclusivity, you've said that you will make sure that the Forum for Union Affiliated Political Societies, i.e. POLIS, is reinvigorated and formalised. But what about non-affiliated political societies? In previous years, there have been political societies that aren't affiliated with the union that have been able to sit on POLIS. So why are you now seeking to eliminate them, which doesn't sound very inclusive, Lottie?
No, I don't want to eliminate them from any like events or discussion or anything. But
so why specify only affiliated societies that be on POLIS then?
Because most of the political societies are union affiliated. There have been a few that have been involved, but I think it's because POLIS before has been a subcommittee of like the Comres committee, so it's been like within the union. So I think having some like funding available and a budget for the union affiliated societies, because it's part of the union, makes sense. I don't want to.
I'm not entirely sure it does make sense. And I think you're well aware that you've not answered the question. Do you or do you not want to see non-union affiliated political societies sitting on POLIS?
Yes, I want.
So why have you not stated that in your manifesto?
Because POLIS is part of the union, so I think,
as you've already established, non-union affiliated political societies can sit on POLIS.
They have in the past, but POLIS hasn't been like formalised in a way that allows it to have budget to spend on political events and things like that.
So you want to formalise it to exclude non-affiliated societies?
No, I think that non-affiliated societies should be involved in political discussions, but having a budget for union affiliated societies as part of their membership for the union is, I mean, it's an incentive for societies to join the union, and it also it can allow the societies to hold events and stuff. I don't think that we should be excluding any political societies from joining in the discussion and getting involved, because like having political discussions is great. We need that. We need those different opinions, but there needs to be a reason to join the union and become union affiliated.
Right, well, let's move on to talking about you now. I think you can leave the manifesto to one side for a second. You've mentioned in various different places that you're trying to, I guess, develop some kind of persona outside of the candidate. You know, you mentioned that you've got a cat called Bo, you live with your partner, you love going to museums and galleries, lifting heavy weights at the gym, trying different beers. The most eclectic character I think we may have on our hands at this election. Is there anything more to your character than all of that?
Oh gosh, I mean, I could talk about all the music and art I like as well, but
let's hear it, then. Let's go through it.
Oh gosh, so music-wise, well, I'm a massive fan of going to like music festivals and gigs, and obviously that hasn't happened this year. I was meant to be seeing Green Day in Glasgow last summer, and I think that's going to be postponed this summer as well, by the sounds of it. But yeah, I don't even really know what to add. I'm vegan, I can add that. That's always a stereotypical one, that vegans don't shut up about being vegan.
Endorsing that exact sentiment, I see as well.
Mm-hmm.
A question that I've loved asking throughout these elections. Tell me about your craziest story from your time at St. Andrews.
Oh, God.
Too many to tell?
Well, my memory is, like, not the best in terms of like personal things I have to remember. I'm very good at remembering like work things I need to do, but I forget what I've eaten for lunch yesterday and things like that. So trying to think of just like one crazy story is kind of hard. Oh gosh.
You can leave to ponder that. We'll come to the next question then.
Yeah.
So, living with your partner, Henry, what's he been like throughout this whole campaign process? Quite supportive? Is he looking forward to the prospect of being the first man of the association?
Yes, the first man of the association. I'm going to tell him that that's going to be his title. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, he was, I mean, it took me a while to decide to run to be association president, and he was like unsure about whether I should, but he's very supportive, and if I do win, obviously we'll support that.
And who would you say is the more romantic out of the two of you?
Oh gosh, I don't think either of us are particularly romantic.
So don't expect the love if Lottie becomes president then. We can take from that one. And if we were to get Henry on in this interview, someone that you live with who knows you maybe more than anybody in the whole world, how do you think he'd describe you?
Oh gosh. Probably say something about me being very loud. And hopefully say that I'm fun. Yeah. Hopefully all positive things I'd like to think he says.
Maybe we should find out. Let's say, can we push you for a story, or should we leave that for another time, do you think? Just too many to think of.
Oh, crazy story. I don't know.
Running for association president. There we go.
Yes, that is quite crazy.
There we go. So we are going to end with some quick fire questions. So first up, Lottie, North Street, Market Street or South Street?
Ooh, South Street.
Favourite restaurant in St. Andrews?
Brewdog.
Favourite bar in the Union?
Sandy's.
Favourite hall of residence?
Oh, DRA, that's where I lived.
Leah Vyman or Spencer Percival?
Oh, golly. Leah.
Okay, and finally, describe what life under your presidency will be like in the Student Association in 3 words.
Ooh. Inclusive, fun, exciting.
Lottie Doherty, best of luck with the rest of the campaign and the election. Hopefully you can relax now and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you very much.